Hello to everybody out there. This is Rabbi Pinchas Landis, a Partners in Torah of Cleveland, and I am here. Well, not really here. I'm actually in Cleveland, and my cohort, Rabbi Spero, is in Nebraska in an RV with his father and his sons. Rabbi Spero, how are you?
Good. Baruch Hashem. I'm in the most boring state in America, Nebraska, but on the way to Wyoming, which is an awesome state. So,
Okay, Wyoming's an awesome state. There you have
Wyoming's the most beautiful state. So yeah, we're going to Wyoming or California, Montana. It's all the same, sort of. I don't know if people there would feel that way, but to me, it's all beautiful country, except for Eretz Yisrael. And nowhere I'd rather be than this southern western part of America. And we're just welcome to the guest. I'm too overwhelmed for words.
So this is pretty impressive, Rabbi Spero. You're both recording a podcast and driving an RV at the same time.
I'm not driving. I was driving earlier. I asked my father if he minds if I record while I'm driving. He said yes. So I keep it up. No.
So who's actually driving?
I want to tell you, it's been amazing. We've been. My father's driving. We've been having regular yeshiva shurim. It's it's been really great. It's really learning with my kids learn. My son and my father learn together. We just learned together, the four of us. One of my other sons learning brachos now. Beautiful. It's really nice. One of the great things, in my opinion, about we've learned from this virus is, as it's hopefully winding down, I hope, bye. But one of the things we've learned is the compatibility of Torah wherever you are. I think it's taught us that lesson. At least it's taught me that lesson. There's halacha in the Beis Hamikdash that by the Aron, lo yasur habadim, the badim, which are Landis. What's the English word for badim that we both love?
The English word for bottom that we both love? Poles?
Don't say poles. No.
Sorry.
Staves.
Staves. I'm sorry. I'm Schultigs. Zichmir. Sorry, staves.
It's one of these English words which are never ever used except for like I was talking to someone about. We're going over the Hilchas Mezuzah. So we're talking about what the mashkov, how to define the mashkov. So you're saying like the word lintel is not used by anybody ever except for art scroll when talking about mezuzah.
And if you're describing your soup.
Oh, lentil, yeah. But to state, but it's a great word. So leisur habadim. It's also to remove the badim, the poles to carry the aron. So the shaila, all the Mefarshim ask why. Why should it be us to use? Good. When we're traveling, put it back in. It wasn't welded to it. It was removable. So Rav Shanshval Hirsch, I think all the Mefarshim give the same answer. They want to show that Torah can go anywhere, and we can figure out There's no situation where we can be mevater on certain things, right? Right now we don't have a Beis Hamikdash to be rebuilt soon. We're missing certain mitzvahs. We don't have the machlekes. Do we have cheles or not have cheles? We're missing certain mitzvahs. That's for sure. But never limat Torah. Limat Torah is so timeless. That's a beauty. It goes everywhere. And one of the things I look forward to going out west is you just see it many different places. I'll use another big word for you if I land. We see, I'm not even sure what it means, but it means like nice views, I think. When you go...
You faded out when you said it. I don't even know what word it was.
Oh, vistas.
Vistas. Okay.
You go out west and you're in places like I said, we're going to hit Wyoming. We're going to hit Northern California. Not doing Southern California. Doing Northern California and Utah. All three are extraordinarily beautiful states. Mamish, Neflei, Sabayre. You see the wonders. I always wonder, why did Hashem make... The right side of America has nice parts, but the eastern side, I go right and left.
Right.
Everybody stops somewhere, and like the non-Jewish like worker will say to me like, go west. I'm like, I told the guy recently, I said, I only know right and left. He was like, okay, so go right and then take a left. Like I know Shaykh is the west and north. I don't have a good Jewish compass, but the eastern side of the country is pretty boring. Western side is beautiful. And when you see the beautiful beauty of what Hashem has made for us, I think it's made. The Gemara speaks. The Gemara used the lashon when a person has a dira na a nice house, an ishana, a nice wife. It opens his heart, right? And it's interesting. The same lush is by the Archaim about Limud Torah. When we learn Torah properly, it's Marchav Libosh Adam. It expands us. So looking forward to be expanded. Feeling expansive, seeing things in a bigger sense, loving nature, seeing nature, loving Torah, and it's very excited. And just spending time with the family and being in an RV. I never was in an RV before, my first time.
That was a lot of fun.
I'll show. We have a nice screen over there. And sure, the stovetop did. There's a fridge, and so there's actually not enough room for my son, Moishe David. But we bought a nice pair of rollerblades, and we tied him around his waist. So we're just pulling him along the 80. And I think, and we haven't checked on him all day. I think he's doing all right.
Oh, Rabbi Spero, that Western or the Midwestern air is, keeping you yourself.
But it was nice. So also, like this morning, my kids were still sleeping, and we left early at 7:30. Like, imagine like you're traveling, you're still sleeping in bed. That's pretty cool. See it back there. I don't know if you could see a couple beds back there, and I'm sitting on a couch right out to the bed. And my father enjoys being outdoors. He sleeps in a tent. Mm-hmm. So each his own. I'm not an outdoors type of guy, as you probably know. And it's not, when you go out west, not bad. It's like we're getting to Lake Tahoe tomorrow. Tomorrow night we'll be sleeping in Lake Tahoe, Mitzvah Hashem. Lake Tahoe is 80 by day, 40 by night. But
unlike night, Cleveland, which is 91 and humid right now.
The last night we were in Iowa, and at first we couldn't get the generator in the RV to work. Then Baruch Hashem, we figured it out. So it was nice and air conditioned, but it was brutal last night. And Iowa was brutal.
Got it. Did you see any?
I think living in Iowa itself is brutal.
I was gonna say,
did you see
any cows or any cows there? Or?
Iowa, yeah. We actually were stopped in Esther, Iowa, Stewart or Adair. Oh, it's a place where Jesse James did the first bank robbery in America, which was kind of nice. I associate with that, but it was brutally humid and brutally hot. Farms, nice farms. I saw some nice farms. It was nice.
Got it. Beautiful. Well, sounds like I'm a kind of the trip, and I've been talking about doing this for a long time with my kids. Wait until they get a little older, but I am definitely I like the idea. So it should be a beautiful trip with you and the mishpacha and everyone and your father. And please send your father a big welcome to the guests from me. And I can't wait till the Influence of the Rabbis podcast hits the Middle America and West Coast. So. Anyway, I found out this week we have there's a listener, there's a big chassid we have of the podcast. I didn't realize it. Rabbi Ari Spiegler from Beechwood Kehila was telling me he's a big listener of ours. I was davening Mincha Marv there this week, and he said, "Is Rabbi Spero out of town?" I said, "Yeah." How'd you know? He goes, "Well, you guys haven't done a podcast in a little while."
Wow. So, I'm embarrassed to say I would love to meet this kid. I don't know him.
You don't know Rabbi Spiegler?
It used to be. I knew the old rabbi. I remember he's Rabbi B'Tzei from Mizrahi. Very nice guy.
Zlatan.
Blanking on his name.
Zlatan.
No. I was like the main rabbi, but also like the younger rabbi.
Yeah, it's Spiegler. There's someone before Spiegler?
No, before him. The one before me. I was friendly with him. But yeah, it's great shul. We're very happy. Welcome to the guest, as we always say. And by the way, I put it off. I sent out to a lot of people. Whoever's interested. People who don't have such great access to streaming podcasts, so someone like yourself. So I said I'll send them a thumb drive of all Naviim Rishayim. I finished Naviim Rishayim. I'll send them a thumb drive of Naviim Rishayim. So I've already sent out a couple of people. So if you're interested, you could email me, rabbispero@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you a thumb drive. And I also include some musings on there, some poetry, some karaoke. I'm a karaoke fan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember someone asked me about getting on thumb drive. I'm glad we have that service. Wonderful Jewcast.com service. We'll have to put a link for that on the website so people know that they can get that. So anyhow, so we're you're living your utopian society out there. I'm back in Cleveland. Focused on the stuff we're doing back in Cleveland, and focused on my own getting through the Navi podcast. I'm getting towards the end of Sefer Shmuel.
Wow, you're flying through it.
Yeah, I ended up, my original goal was a parak a day, but as you know, at least in Navim Rishonim, it's so geschmack that sometimes you just want to keep going. It's like you want to see what lies around the corner, even if you know the story. It's like greatest hits. You get up to the situation of Amnon and Tamar and all, then you want to go straight to the rebellion of Avshalom and figure that out, and it's just not nonstop laughs in Navim Rishonim.
We have to get. I hope we need to get back. I was just thinking about this today. We need to get back into the stories of Shmuel are so deep. I want to start. We covered some of the stories in Sefer Shoftim.
Right.
I think we need to have a podcast devoted to the story of Penina and Chana, which to me is a very important story. The beginning of Sefer Shmuel. We need to get into Shmuel's life itself, which is one of the greatest heroes in the history of Klal Yisrael. I think, and I know people. I don't want to say what does underrated mean. He has his own sefer, but underappreciated. A person who the Mesiras Nefesh Shmuel had for Klal Yisrael is unbelievable. As an elderly, he didn't live that long. He lived to be 52 years old. As an elderly man, when he was elderly and not well, he'd be traveling from city to city, helping people out. And I think we need to get into, obviously, Shaul HaMelech and Dov. I mean, there's so much content. We really, I think, need to focus to get into these stories of Navi, to try to properly evaluate them. At least do our best to evaluate them. It's very important.
Yeah, terribly complicated stories on all levels.
But I want to offer you kudos, though, and I like that word, for going through the American Day of Navi. Somebody expressed surprise that I did these Navi podcasts. He was like, I thought they don't do Navi in yeshiva. So,
and the answer is they don't. But, Baruch Hashem, I started learning Navi when I was in yeshiva, not as part of yeshiva, but when I was in yeshiva, I would set aside a little time every day to do Navi. And,
right.
Like anything, you get rusty if you don't chazer it and you don't go.
But you know what? The truth is, though, I always think it's a cop-out when we put too much blame on our kids' schools, yeshivas, etc.
100%.
What's the lush in the Torah? Right? All the shyness, all the expressions used of continuing the Messiah are parents to children.
Right.
100%. So if it's our obligation. When I was a kid, my father used to tell me at night that if he was, as a young wood, he'd see my clothes on the floor. I would leave my clothes on the floor.
But by the night, you mean last night in the RV, right?
Or actually, I've gotten out of the habit. I'll tell you why I got out of the habit, though. I'm usually a pretty messy person. My father would say to me, he said, David HaMelech, his clothes did not keep him warm. We know being a Malachim Aleph.
Yeah.
Right? And he would say
complicated
to me,
story.
No,
Shmuel Aleph.
Malachim Aleph.
When he died, when he died, right. When he was at the end of his life. With
Ruchi Adler remembers everything we said on the Navi podcast. I know she'll remember that, but
yeah.
In any case, yeah. So, I think it's obligation. Don't blame yeshivas. We should, a person.
100%. Look, 100,000%.
We have to be naturally curious. We should be curious about all things. I think life should be curious about.
So I added another layer that I don't know if I told you about to my daily Navi Chazara. And again, I told you I was doing it chronologically, like trying, doing all this from chronologically.
Right, such a great idea.
But I added another layer to it. Hold on to your RV when you hear the layer I added to it. I'm doing all this from chronologically, and then I'm doing a little Josephus every day also. Which is a fascinating. It's fascinating on many different levels. What he includes from Chazal, what he doesn't include from Chazal, what he completely changes from Chazal.
Right. And it's fascinating that some things he'll talk about he experienced, he saw, he was alive, but then he'll also mention stories that happened in the Navi, which he obviously was not alive for, right?
Right.
He was one of the most interesting Jews in history. You know who held with him for history? The Chofetz Chaim. Not 100%.
One second, back up. My understanding is, and again, I've also struggled trying to understand him and wrap my head around him as a person, him in his lifetime, his writings. But again, this whole point on what he's including from where, which the whole. I mean, again, probably one of the most complicated areas in Jewish history to begin with is the Tkufa of the time period of the Persian kings, and the way he deals with it is just like totally different than what the Tanakh says, totally, and what Chazal say at least. But the as far as a historian, look, it's a solid history. Now, every history has its bias and is
right. No, I agree. I thought that. And the Chavetz Chaim felt that way too.
right.
He
We have a frozen Rabbi Spero on the screen.
was colored. I was just mute whenever muted. How would you define him as a Jew? Was he an observant Jew? Was he a renegade Jew?
Here's my understanding. Here's my honest understanding of Josephus. First of all, by the way, just a modern Haskama. I mean, the Chavetz, you don't need much better than the Chavetz Chaim, but a more modern Haskama. And this I found fascinating. Have you ever looked in R.A. Kaplan's The Living Torah?
Sure.
He quotes
not
Josephus.
For years actually, but I used to look at it more.
He quotes Josephus in the footnotes, like
really?
as a source.
That's not a chiddush to me. Meaning, whatever. There's all sorts of allegations about it, that he was a traitor. There's a lot of interesting things said about him, which I'm not sure what's true, what's not true.
So here's what I say. Here's my take. Here's Rabbi Landis' take on Josephus. Josephus was, first of all, Perushi. Our understanding is he was for sure part of the Perushim. He was not a Tzeduki or a Sian or any of these other rogue of the Chavdad Kitim, the 24 groups that were around. He was definitely with the Perushim. He was originally with the Kanayim, which was a chelik of the Perushim,
right.
And until he lost, right, until Gamla or whichever. No, it wasn't Gamla. It was
the nephew of Yochanan Zakkai.
No. But it wasn't Gamla. Gamla was not his fortress. It was I'm blanking on the name of his Teldan or no, whatever fortress. Teldan, I think it was. Whatever his fortress was. Once that was conquered by the Romans, he did what honestly, first of all, was more in line with the non-Kanayim. Right, and with the other Perushim definitely had the approach of live to see the next day. That was definitely the approach of Rabbi Yochanan
That was Yochanan Zakkai's approach, 100%.
Right,
yeah.
And this is a timely message. And we're starting the 3 weeks in a few hours, or me a few hours, you a few more hours. So you're really doing this to avoid the 3 weeks. That's why you're driving west, because you have a few more a few more hours to listen to your daddy, which I'm sure you're pumping through the RV.
Oh, Daddy, right now, it's on hiatus for a few moments, but yeah. Actually, I have this earpiece in my ear.
Yeah.
I have a continuous stream of Daddy pumped into me 24/7.
I'm sure. So my take on Josephus, you'll see we have to remember, for those of us who are into Jewish history, that we can't ever, and this is what I'm very into. Actually the new issue of Kan arrived today, so I was very excited.
I was in Lakewood for this past Shabbos, and I saw they were selling it at not just at a bookstore, Gourmet Glatt.
Did you buy 20 copies of it?
I didn't have a chance to get it because we were mamish running in and out, picking up something on Erev Shabbos.
Got it.
The fact that it's a Gourmet Glatt though was actually a very good sign.
Well, by the way, who owns Gourmet Glatt? You know who owns Gourmet Glatt? Speaking about another periodical, what does Gourmet Glatt have to do with another periodical? This is the cover of this week's Mishpacha that someone sent to me.
Back from Death's Door. Who is that? I can't see it.
It's Rabbi Ginsburg.
Oh, really? Yeah. Nice.
Rabbi Ginsburg owns Gourmet Glatt. So
really?
He's one of the owners of Gourmet Glatt. Yeah, I think it's Gourmet Glatt. Yeah, he's one of the owners of Gourmet Glatt. Anyhow, so by the way, I have nothing to do with Kan being there. I didn't ask for Rabbi Ginsburg to put it there. But so I have asked some interesting Kan things relating to what we're talking about with Nach for my article. What I write on last month? Oh yeah, Helene Amalka. I wrote about Helene Amalka, which is a fascinating topic.
Great article.
But my topic. Anyways, back to my thought about Josephus. So we had to. Those are like history, and this is really the point of Kan is that history for a Torah Yid always has to be looked at through the eyes of Chazal. And we can only understand history through the eyes of Chazal. That has to be the scope. So a lot of times, like you said, Josephus is called the Benedict Arnold of Jewish history, the traitor of Jewish history, and all this. But that's a nationalistic perspective. You have to remember, Chazal were not nationalistic at this point.
Good.
Now they were nationalistic. They were nationalistic at the time of Bar Kokhba. That was the beginning of Bar Kokhba at least. But at the time of Churban Bayis Sheni, Chazal were not on the side of the nationalists. They're not on the side of the
right. No, absolutely. Many years ago, the Jewish Observer wrote an article, which we always stay away from politics. This is not a political statement at all. This was a fascinating article they wrote that there's certain elements in the frum world. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Certain extreme right-wing elements who they quoted a certain Rashi, but said they're like the Biryanim, right? The Biryanim were the people bought down. They mentioned the Gemara and Maseches Gittin, and they mentioned that reference many times throughout Shas.
Yeah.
The extremists, they were Prushim, they were not Stukim. These are people who were regular Shemei Torah mitzvahs, but on that issue they burned down, right? Of Nakim Ben Gurion and Kalva Savua and Tzitz Ben Kesses, all their storehouses of food, they burnt them down and they totally destroyed the negotiating power.
Right. Yeah. As the Gemara in Gittin says that the Yerushalayim could have survived a 20.
Sorry.
Okay.
Are you with me?
I'm with you. I lost you
at with this phone.
Yeah, I lost you at the Biryonim burning down the storehouses of Yerushalayim. So I just picked up and I was saying how the Gemara says that there was enough in those storehouses to withstand a 20-year siege.
20 years, right. And that totally destroyed the negotiating, and that was not the Das Torah of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was the God Ladar.
Right.
What was totally, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Was totally based on the survival of pleasure. I saw a great line from Shamshin Fal Hirsch recently. I was reading him. He was talking about Yoshio Melech when I was doing it on the Navi podcast. Really one of the greatest kings in the history of Klal Yisrael. An unbelievable person, an unbelievable tzaddik, and he came to power after there were two terrible kings, Menashe and Amon, who had really instilled Avodah Zarah into Klal Yisrael. And he came into power and revolutionized. He made a revolution basically, and he overthrew every vestige of Avodah Zarah. We spoke about it many times, but the Hirsch has a great line at the end.
The whole Perek of Eicha is dedicated to him.
Right, in the end, he was not successful, right? Because if they train in Yirmiyahu, Al Yoshio, in the end, he was not successful. But Hirsch has a great line. Hirsch says that he saved the nation, but he did not save the state, which I think is a great way of looking at it. Yeah. Yoshio saved Klal Yisrael. He made sure that Klal Yisrael's allegiance was to Torah. He also tried to save the state, where he made a couple of errors regarding with Paro Nechai and with Yirmiyahu on Navi, but he saved it. I thought that was such a great way Hirsch put it.
Yeah, I love that line.
At the state. So I think it's also our priority is always the nation, and the state is secondary.
100%. And look, and I think that's how I look at Josephus as Yosef ben Mattityahu HaKohen, as was his Jewish name, and that look, he was originally, I don't know which group he was with, but he was with one of the Kanaim, the Biryonim, or whoever it was, and then he realized again. Yeah, he was at an opportune time for himself, like when everyone else was committing suicide, and he said, like, this is stupid, I'm just turning myself in, which, okay, I done shmet good, but in the end, he was also deferring to the Chachamim to a certain extent. And now, again, I guess the big grain of salt we have to always take to with Josephus is he was not writing Josephus for the Jews, he was writing it for the Romans, so I think that's probably the answer a lot of times when there's very... not Chazal-based things in there, that it's what the force of Roman culture, the Roman historians, if you will, forced to be put in there.
That's what I decided, by the way, when I make my cult, and I have everyone at the end commit suicide. I'm going to tell everyone, like, okay, you guys drink the grape Kool-Aid first, and I'll drink it last. Let me just supervise.
Well, he did that. He did that. What's his name? The Hale Bopper guy. What's his name?
Jim Jones at Jonestown.
Right, Jim Jonestown, right? So he did that first. He had them all kill themselves. And then he said, this is such a joke, right? Or something like that.
He drank it too. Didn't he kill himself too?
No, he did. But his last line was like, what a hoax, or something like that.
Really?
I forget. I wanted to look it up, but it was like, he like admitted, like, I won, you know? And by the way, that goes hand in hand with something we spoke about last night in the You Know Your Heretic If series, which is coming to an end, which has been a lot of fun to do. I highly recommend doing an in-depth class in the Yogim Ikrim. It's been very good schmuck. But I told the story of the great Twinkie defense, the sort of Twinkie defense. When the man, I forget his name, but he came into the San Francisco State Hall and blew the mayor, City Hall, and blew the mayor to smithereens. And he admitted that he killed him, and there were 50 police officers who jumped on top of him. And in the end, he got off on the defense of he was hypoglycemic. And on his way to City Hall, he had bought a box of Twinkies and eaten the whole box. That he had a hyperglycemic episode, and at the time of the killing, and therefore he had temporary insanity and got off. So that goes right up there with Jim Jones and all these things. But I'll go upon him. So my take on Josephus is look, if you have to know what you're doing when you learn Josephus, because there are things in there that are not in my chazal. Like the one funny thing that I'll throw out is the whole story he has there about how Nehemiah got permission to go to Eretz Yisrael and help with the community that was there. This whole thing about he came before, I think it was one of the Cyruses. So many Cyruses, and Josephus is confusing, but I think it was one of the Cyruses. And he, I'm sorry, it was one of the Dariuses, one of the Daryavishes. And he, right, it was, again, it's hard to know with the way Josephus says it, but Josephus asked a number of questions, and Nehemiah gave the best answer. So his reward was being able to go with the Persian legion back to Eretz Yisrael. Again, nowhere in Chazal, not in Tanakh, not in Chazal, like a totally story from secular sources, like layered on top of something. Like, I don't want to say totally made up, but like totally made up. It's totally made up.
You wonder why he did these things. Maybe he felt to be better.
No, I'll tell you why he did it. He did it because he had the Romans looking over his shoulder. So he had to, in other words, that story was obviously somewhere in the Roman Chronicles, and it was important to the Romans for whatever reason. So he had to include it. That's why. I mean, I think that's push it.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, so that's my take on Yochanan, on Yosef ben Matisyahu HaKohen. And I think he did a great thing for us because he did give us a very well-written collective history of the Jewish people from Brias Olam till Churban Bayis Sheni, and it's a wonderful thing. So this month's Kan will be a sneak preview, and I really need to get it done because I was supposed to turn it in on Sunday, and I'm still not done with it. But I'm writing an article about Yehudis Hamalka. Do you know who Yehudis Hamalka was?
I do not.
So legend has it that there was an Ethiopian queen in the year 945 who ruled for about 30 or 40 years, who either was born Jewish or converted Judaism because she married a Jew, a Jewish prince from Syria. Little unclear. But sort of doing a whole article about the Ethiopian Jewish community and her and how it all revolves together. And it's a bunch of these pieces. But absolutely fascinating theme that kept popping up in these different scholarly articles I was looking at. And it kept talking about the tabernacle in Ethiopia. I was like, what's that all about? So, and the Levim, the Levites, your family in Ethiopia. Like, I was like, what in the world is that all about? Like, this is in the year 9 in the 10th century, right? So Ethiopian tradition is that that Shlomo Melech had a son from you know the story?
Shava, but you should know I talked about it in the Navi podcast a little bit.
Oh, you did?
There is now one makar for it.
That he had a kid, or that he married her?
That he had a kid with her.
Right. There's nothing in Chazal. Right. This whole story is nowhere in Chazal, nowhere in Navi. Yeah, but again, you have to hear the story though. That he had a kid with her. So the Maga Shiva goes back to Ethiopia with her kid, or has the kid in Ethiopia, whatever it is. And then at some point, the kid, I forget the kid's name, I have it in the article. The kid goes to visit Shlomo Melech, and on the way back, he finds out like halfway on the way back that one of his attendants stole the Aron HaKodesh, and he realized that if they hadn't died thus far, because we know that anyone even touch, I mean, as you know, Shmuel Beis and other, if you even touch the Aron HaKodesh, you're not supposed to, you'll die on the spot. So they figured they hadn't died yet, so must be that this is what Hashem wants, and Hashem wants him to be the guardian of the Aron HaKodesh, and he brought it to Ethiopia, and it remains in Ethiopia until this day. And they have a church called, because those descendants of Malka Shiva ended up converting Christianity in roughly the year 300. But they have what they call the Church of Zion with the Levim, with the monks they call them Levim, who guard the Aron HaKodesh. And only the man who's known as the guardian is allowed to actually see it. And that's where it is. So it's not under the Beis Hamikdash. And
Never heard this story.
like I thought about it because you mentioned Yoshiyahu, because what we say is that Yoshiyahu built a chamber under the Beis Hamikdash because he knew that the Churban was going to be caused by his children, and his children basically were the kings of the time. As Tzidkiyahu was his son, right? Was his youngest son. And he knew those coming, so he made the chamber underneath the Beis Hamikdash to hide the Aron Kodesh. But again, it's like this crazy story. This an Ethiopian history about the Ark of the Covenant. I was like, what in the world is that all about? It's gonna be in the.
It was also interesting that it's become so accepted that the queen, Malchus Shava, is from Ethiopia, which is also very unclear. She's mentioned in the Sefer Malachim. She's definitely from somewhere that was far away. But I don't remember where, but there's a lot of machlokes and where she's from, and there's no clear source that she's from Ethiopia.
Yeah, so I took. Yeah. So one thing I'm going to be quoting in the article. I'm sorry, we're breaking up on each other.
Yeah.
I guess the cell service in Nebraska is about as good as the corn, but
I think we're actually in Wyoming.
Oh, it must be a Wyoming thing. So I have it here. I think it's in here that I mentioned before. Rav Eisman's Divrei Yamim, which is excellent, has a number of essays trying to explain the discrepancies between Malachim and Divrei Yamim and give the historical or philosophical underpinnings. So he has an article about the Queen of Sheba, which I'm going to be quoting for the Kankan article, but I didn't have a chance to chazard over yet. But I think that he deals with this, is where she actually came from. Yeah, he has a whole thing about the Queen of Sheba. The whole thing about the Queen of Sheba. I think he deals with where she actually comes from. Anyways, see next month's Kankan. This is going to be discussed.
You're done with the article. Can you email it to me?
Sure. But this is because this is such a matter.
Great.
What, the one on Helene?
Yeah.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Yosef is doing a wonderful thing, and I want him to get in Cleveland so that I don't have to order. Like for me, he ships it from England or wherever it comes. Oh no, it comes from Muncie. But we should have it here for sure.
I got a new book I was reading, and I should mention it, and I can mention it. Great book called Hidden Heretics. It's written by a woman who did. It actually has the title in Yiddish in the cover too. But how to not be cursed. Which means literally hidden, not be cursed, hidden heretics. Yeah. Fascinating book. Very sad. It was very sad. I'm in the middle of it right now. Very sad. But I learned a lot from it. It's
very Spero, you're breaking out. You're breaking up. Very Spero, you're breaking up on me again. Totally breaking up on me.
Now? How about now?
I can hear you, but your picture's paused. So at least go on talking. I'll be okay.
So people who are leading what she calls double lives, that on the outside they portray themselves as Orthodox, and inside they're totally not. And other people who just have left the fold totally. And the one thing I noticed, both, she interviewed a lot of them. Obviously, everything is pseudonyms, but is the lack of contact that Jews have meaning I think irreligious Jews have it. I think even in our community we have it. I don't know, I want to not say bad about any of us. I think we're all great. But when we don't have the context of what it means to be a Jew and to see our history, and it's like whenever people say, like, people talk about the internet and they'll say, oh, the internet has so many dangers. We've never had this type of situation before. We both know you should never say that about Jewish history. Right. We've had every type of situation before, every type of craziness, and Baruch Hashem, we're very resilient people. Mm-hmm. And I feel that if a person knows that, and a person knows Jewish history, he feels a part of the contextual whole. And these people, sadly, you see, they don't have any context about Yiddishkeit. So I think what this guy's doing, Yosef and what you're doing with him, any effort to expand on Jewish history, whether it's an increase in Navi, learning Navi, or just knowing all we've been through, and even the good parts and the bad parts. I always say over this Rashba, the Rashba says one of the ways we know the Torah is true is because it doesn't whitewash. says difficult things. But when we know our history and we're part of the context, it's so important. And if you're missing it, this book is very sad, but I think it's a good reading for anybody who's involved either in Kiruv or not only Kiruv Rechakim, Kiruv Kroidim, to see it, how we can better reach our fellow Jews, whether they're FFB or FFC or FFD,
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. So, yeah.
I'm not sure what that stands for, but it's something.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're hitting the Wyoming cell service, and it's kind of breaking us up a little bit. We're about at our time limit as it is. So, the main lesson that we want you to take for today is learn history, learn Navi, get the Navi podcast either on a thumb drive. Wow, that is beautiful. Look at that. Picture perfect Wyoming. Blue clouds, blue skies, white clouds. Excellent. And please, so anyhow, Rabbi Spero, you have an amazing time with your family. Can't wait till next week when we record and when you're in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I think that's the other end of the world, but it's okay. Have a wonderful trip. Have a great Shabbos. And to all you out there, please share this with your friends. Buy this month's ConCon and next month's ConCon and subscribe at conconjournal.com. Again, I want to say one thing about what Rabbi Spero was saying about how we always say we've never dealt with this before. So Rabbi Yossi Quadrad has been very focused on that idea vis-a-vis the pandemic, and he's had a lot of articles, or a lot of his short dailies about it, but he has a thing in here called Cholera versus COVID-19, remarkable similarities and promising differences. In other words, pandemics are, unfortunately, we dealt with them, and
right.
What does Shlomo Melech say?
Ein chadash tachas hashemesh.
Right, there's nothing new under the sun. That's the bottom line. So, okay, everyone have a beautiful week, and share this with your friends. Leave a positive review, and we will look forward to talking to you more next time. A big old fat welcome to the guest.
Welcome to the guest.